What's up, everybody? My name's Joe. I've been an ice bath enthusiast for a few years now, starting probably 2021, and it was fairly easy for a while during the fall, the winter, and the spring. It's cold out, easy to keep the bath cold, adding ice every day, stopping on the way home, getting bags of ice for the morning, and just got tired of it. So joined the face group. I'm going to tag them down on the bottom. Do-it-yourself cold plunge. And tons of information. I've been researching for about a year, reading articles, talking to people, reading books. There's a really smart guy on that group named John who produces a book on how to build these. He's done a lot of the bads and a lot of the goods, and he tells you kind of about what's been successful. Now this build here, there's a lot of things that people say don't do that I did. And there's a reason for that. If you join that group, or if you read up or just do any type of research on building your own ice bath, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. What I did was the chest freezer conversion. And again, lots of different ways to do this, lots of different filters and pumps and this and that. And it got not overwhelming, but it got to the point where I could have easily copied what everybody else did or what one person did. And I wouldn't have necessarily known how I did it or why I did it, especially when it comes to the filtration and sanitation. There's kits out there you can buy, drop them in, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those. I wanted to understand the particles in the water, how to separate those, how to sanitize the water, what chemicals do I need to add if I start getting cloudy water, and just how to keep a maintained ice bath. And most of these guys I'm seeing are getting 4 to 6 months before they have to drain and clean and refill. And for me, when I was doing the manual ice bath, I was draining and cleaning every week. And probably a little more than I had to, but I could feel the slime and stuff build up inside, and I probably over cleaned. But so anyway, getting back to the project build, my goal was I didn't want to have anything electrical in the water. And I almost achieved that. I've got a UV sterilizer light that's in the water, but everything else is outside. So my pump is mounted outside. All my filters, I'm going to show you here in a bit. My filter, my ozone injector, everything is outside. So I've got an intake, and then I've got a return line coming through, circulates the water. I can get in the water with the pump on if I want to. And that is a game changer. If you ice bath, you'll build a kind of a thermal barrier when you're sitting still. And if you move, you get cold again. Well, if you've got the water moving, you can sit still and it's constantly like a vortex inside. I don't have to, I can shut it off. But point being, I didn't want anything in the water. So I took bits and pieces from some other people that I've seen their builds and figured I'm going to try it. This video is completely open and honest. There's some major mistakes I made along the way. Luckily, I got them on video. You're going to see those. So that's what this is with mine. I'm going to list all the parts that I used, do a full description. I'm actually going to build just an Amazon list. Everything that I used when I built this. If it's something you want that could help you, it'll be there. And I plan for this to be kind of a series. I've been using it for about 3 weeks now. Cosmetically, it does not look nice. It's just a white freezer. I've got plans on how to make this look really nice. So I'm going to start that next week, but I wanted 3 weeks of solid use to make sure I have no leaks, everything's working as I designed before I start doing the aesthetic part of it. So we're going to go through all that. And like I said, there's a lot of different ways to do this. This is just my preferred way. It was a challenge. And I like challenges, but my main thing, like I said, I didn't want anything in the water. And I know there's some guys out there that don't agree with that method. There are some challenges to having it outside. I'm in the south, so it's a little humid down here, so I do get a little condensation, specifically around the filter housing, which I'll show you here in a minute too. But really, it's in my garage, and it's not a big deal. And if it gets to the point where I'm getting a lot of condensation dripping on the ground, I've already found a little catch pan. It's about 6 inches by 4 foot. I can put it right underneath all that and have a little drain going outside. My garage door is right here. So far it's nothing I have to worry about, especially going into the fall and the winter. I don't think I'm gonna have an issue. Come next spring and summer, we'll see how the condensation does. It's still up to 90 here during the day with pretty good humidity. And in my garage, probably a little bit cooler, but like I said, it's nothing I've had to worry about yet. So let's get into this video. It's a long one. I'm going to chapter everything. So hopefully you can skip forward if there's certain things you want to see. But yeah, hope this helps. If you guys have any questions, have any comments, like I said, this is going to be a series. Like, subscribe, put your questions down in the comments. I'm going to get to some of them. Some of them I may save for a follow-up video in a couple weeks. So I figured I'd probably do a live and just ask questions. So if you do want updates, make sure you like and follow. And when we do a live, you'll be able to see that. And that'll be a full Q&A. So here we go. Get ready to watch a challenging, but I'd say it was a fun build. All right, just one more overview. So I did run the wires through the hood. Looks kind of gonky out. Got to clean that up, but that'll all come together once we get the light mounted. And then what I'm going to do on the outside, I'm not going to talk about it yet. I want it to be a little bit of a surprise, but it's gonna make all the little issues and just things that don't make it look really good. It's going to look really good. So that goes through. There's a grommet, and then I used just expansion foam to seal it there. And then we got everything mounted temporarily here. I'm going to do a nicer mount at some point, but we've got our ozone, our timers running the ozone, and the pump, a Rainbird here. And I ran everything off of, this is a GFI outlet. So this power strip hooks to the GFI. One flip of the switch shuts everything off. So the power's off, plus we have the safety of the GFI as well. Just a little cleaning. Sometimes you get a little floaties in there. Nice to have a little net sitting there. So I wanted to show you this and how everything's kind of wired and mounted all the way down to the back. All right, so to prep for the pond shield, we're going to completely sand everything inside. First step will be sand, and then we're going to JB water weld it, and then we're going to put the pond shield in. So starting the process of what's probably going to be a lot of sanding. So let's get going. Okay, and the purpose for sanding this obviously is it's got a kind of like a gloss finish on it. You've got to break that finish down and rough it up so the epoxy has something to adhere to. So I'm going to show you here. I've got this section already sanded, and you can see the shine you get off the unsanded spot. It's got a pretty good epoxy, or a pretty good glossy finish to it. And this has been sanded. You can see where I got a little deep in the sand right there, but that's okay. I just want to make sure I break the surface and get a good bonding surface for the pond shield. All right, so when you're sanding this, I've read a few different opinions on what sandpaper you should use. I don't think it really matters. As long as you get the job done, you get that slick surface knocked off and you get a good binding surface for the epoxy shield to adhere to, you'll be fine. A lot of people say use 60. I'm using 80. I do a lot of woodworking. I know the sander really well. I tend to push harder than most people do when I'm sanding, so 60 to me was going to be a little bit too much. But if you start with 60 and you notice you're cutting through really quick, and you're getting some gray spots coming through, you can step up to 80, 100, 120, whatever you think. I think anything above 120, you're probably going to spend a lot of time getting the sanding done. So I actually started at 120, and it was getting the job done, but even with the pressure I put in this high-speed Bosch orbital sander, just taking too long. So I stepped down to 80. Seems to be the perfect sweet spots for me. So just play with it, figure out which one is going to work best for you. And I'm about time management. I don't want to spend any more time than I have to on each step. I want to get it done efficiently and correctly as I can, because this is a big project and I have a limited amount of time. So this is working good for me. 80 grit, Bosch orbital. Again, do what you think is right. Try a couple different things and try it early before you get too far in. That way you can adjust and figure out what's best for you. All right, once you get all the surfaces good and done, make sure you get in all the corners. Those orbital sanders, whatever you're using, chances are it's not going to get in the corners, and you don't want that to be your failure spot. So just get a piece of 80 grit, 60 grit, make sure you get all the corners, all the edges up underneath this lip. Make sure you get everything sanded, just so you can make sure you get a nice epoxy shield finish. Rough clean, got everything sanded for the first time. I'm going to wipe it out and then give it a once over good look with a light just to see if there's any super glossy spots left that I need to knock down. When you're going through this, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of sanding, and that sanding dust kind of falls all over the place, so it's hard to tell what's been roughed up and what's still shiny. So I'm going to give it clean down, get a light, go around just to make sure I got everything. All right, looks good. Now, one thing I want to say, if you do get through down to bare metal, just get some etching primer. You want to make sure that gets covered. A couple other spots aren't too bad. All in all, I've got a little bit of an edge here I'm going to do, and then maybe this spot here. But as you can see, a little bit of glaze there I'm going to touch up. But you can see once you get a pretty good sanding on it, there's just no more glare, no more gloss. Did get a little heavy in the corners with my sanding, but I'll touch those up with some etching primer and we'll be good to go. Okay, sanding done. It was a lot of work. No real lessons to take away. Just take your time. You don't want to go too deep. You don't want to get into the bare metal, but if you do, it's okay. Just get some etching primer, touch up with any bare metal you get. But really just, like I said, take your time. It's a lot of work. This prep work is what's going to make or break how it looks at the end, how well your pond shield or whatever epoxy you're using adheres to it, and ensure you get a long-lasting bond with the epoxy you're putting on. So, a lot of work. Take your time. Test a couple different grits out if you're using a power sander and figure out what works for you, and just go through it. Check underneath all the lips, all the corners, hand sand them, pull the plug out, sand around the plug. I'm going to end up obviously sealing that plug up completely, but I wanted to make sure I get around it and everything, because that's just going to be epoxy shield right on top. So next step, we're going to get some JB Weld and get going on sealing all these 8 or 10 seams we got to work on. All right, so we are about ready to start our JB water weld install. What I want to do beforehand, I want to make sure all the joints are as clean as possible. All the joints vertically along the bottom. So what we're going to do is just take some 91% isopropyl alcohol and a rag, just get it wet, and we're going to clean all those joints just to make sure there's no leftover residue or anything from sanding, which I've already cleaned the whole thing after sanding, but as important as this step is, I'm going to kind of overkill it and make sure everything is as clean as possible so I can get good adhesion. All right, so I got my JB Weld, getting ready, water weld, getting ready to mix it. I got 6 tubes, might be enough, might not be enough. I'm fortunate enough that I got these on Amazon, but I did see that my local Lowe's home improvement store has these. So if I run out, if I need some in a pinch, I know I can go get some. And it's only a few bucks more. I'd rather just get them on Amazon, but I didn't want to over purchase either. So it comes in a tube like this. You've got a little end cap piece of paper on it. You want to take it off. And then you'll see here, there's 2 different colors. So you got an outside layer and then an inside. We're going to take a piece of this off. I'm going to do kind of quarters because I don't want to mix too much at one time. I don't want to mix the whole thing because I'm not sure what the working time is yet. I know they say, but heat, humidity, different things factor into that. So I'm going to take about a quarter of this. We're going to get it mixed up. All right, so once you get your piece cut, it's got just a plastic film around it. Just slice that, get the plastic off, then we're going to start mixing it. Super important when you're mixing, you want to make sure you get it completely mixed. If there's streaks in it, stripes in it, if it's not one uniform color, keep on mixing. One trick I did see, it's going to get sticky on your gloves. Just take a little water bottle, spray some water on your hands, and then mix. And you're just kneading it. There's no right or wrong way to do it. As long as you get everything mixed, doesn't really matter. It's starting to get a little sticky again. A little shot of water. Really helps with the pliability as well. Got a little piece of paper or something in it. So you can see, starting to mix good. I still got a little bit of off colors in the middle. So I'm just going to keep going. And you can feel the consistency change when you're mixing it. It goes from kind of a harder material to more of a putty. and you can tell it gets a lot more pliable, a lot more workable, and it's actually really easy to mix. I've seen videos. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. It's super easy. Just keep mixing, maybe stretch it out. I don't see any lines. I don't see any discoloration. Everything's uniform, so I think we're good to go. A lot of different ways to apply it. I've seen guys that take little pieces at a time, and it looks kind of like a weld when you're done. There's a little piece, grab another piece. I think I'm going to start with kind of the worm method, where I'm just going to roll it into a long kind of snake, lay it up in the crack, and just work my way pushing it. I'll keep my thumb wet, or whichever fingers I'm pushing it with, just kind of work it in, and then I can help smooth it a little bit as well, just to make it look as nice as I can. Let's get started. All right, got our piece. Gonna snake roll it a little bit, and we're just gonna start on the seam up here and start pushing our way down. You don't need to go real thick and real heavy, but to me, this is one of the things in life where maybe a little more is a little better. I don't want to ever have to come back and find I got a leak or I should have done something differently, so I'd rather just do more now and hopefully save headache later. All right, nitpicky lesson number one. I'm big on aesthetics. I like things to look finished, to look nice. I probably shouldn't have started here. This was my first piece, and it doesn't look bad, but this is also going to be the end where my feet are, so it's not a big deal. I probably would have started on the bottom, just that way I'm learning as I'm going. I started up here where it's going to be super visible. So my recommendation, maybe start on the bottom where it's a little less inconspicuous, and get yourself some practice before you get to the high visual spots, but not a big deal. It goes on nice. I pushed it, joined it into the crack, and then you can kind of smooth out the edges by just kind of rolling your finger and tapering it down so it blends in pretty nice with the side of the freezer. All right, so I switched back down to the bottom. I got a fresh piece. I've been just kind of rolling it down here to make it into the snake. You can make it nice and uniform all the way through. When you get it about the size of a pencil, that's what I've found is about the right size. Just putting it in the corner, and I get it started all the way down, and then come through, and you're just kind of kneading it and squeezing it into that joint. And water has been very helpful. Just get a little bit on my fingers. Just helps you not stick to your glove or your finger while you're applying it. All right, we are about 3/4 of the way done with the bottom. Things I've learned so far: change your gloves often. As soon as they start getting super white and sticky, even with water on them, maybe it's a different kind of glove that might work better. I really like these, and it's what I had, but fresh gloves, when you're applying it, makes it so much better. So I've changed, I think this is my 4th set. And shout out to a guy named John Richter, if you guys haven't looked him up. Probably the smartest guy when it comes to building chest freezers. Cold plunges, little tip, put 2 pair of gloves on. That way it's easy. You just take one layer off, you got another one underneath it. So multi-layer, that really helped. And I've started using bigger pieces as I get more confident and comfortable using them. I feel a little better using bigger chunks at a time. And I've also found that once you get it all mixed, let it sit for a little bit. It's not going to harden instantly, and it gets a little more pliable and not as squishy. So when you push it into the crack, you can really feel that you're getting it in there and sealing it better versus being real soft and almost too pliable. So but you can take that extra time just to make sure it's good and work through, roll it into a ball, squish it up some more. All in all, it's really not a difficult process. Just take your time. Don't rush into it. This is the step that's gonna determine whether you have a successful cold plunge or not, or if you have any leaks. So just take your time. Put some music on, grab a cold refreshment if you're so inclined, and just enjoy it. You're building something. You're not slapping something together that's going to last a month. You want to last this for years to come. So take your time. And when you're laying one pass on top of another, I've been overlapping. If I've got an existing piece and then I'm putting a new piece on, I'm overlapping at least an inch and then blend that down, just so you know you're not butting up against each other. Overlap them, smooth them down, just to make sure you get a good bond. You can see, I don't know if you can see well enough there or not, but on this one, I had a piece existing here and I had a piece existing here. Both sides overlapped probably a good inch to inch and a half, and then I'll just blend that in and it'll be like one seamless piece. All right, so we are done with 6 tubes, and like I figured, I'm definitely gonna need more. I got the bottom done all the way around, got the seat area where the fan is, got that done. And advice, if you can handle getting it on your hands, nix the gloves. Maybe it's just the gloves I was using, I don't know. I took the gloves off, and the quality I was able to get without having a glove stick at all, a wet finger will slide really nice, so you can smooth it out, just make it look a lot nicer. Remember, there's where I started. After what I learned, I got this side done, much cleaner. So another piece of advice, like I said, start at the bottom. It's a lot easier to walk into a 90-degree edge like that than it is to do a flat face. So we're gonna head to the store, get some more, and get this done. All right, so we're working on the top edge now. What I've found, you can see, obviously I ditched the gloves. For me, it is so much easier just doing it with my hands, keeping them a little wet. And I'm just taking like a real skinny snake approach. It seems to be working well. I just kind of push one way, push it up into the joint, so you make sure you're getting it good, and then go down. And I'm just working my way up, down, up, down. And what's really nice about this, and with having a little bit of moisture on your hand, is you can then smooth it out where it's a nice line. But again, just kind of working through, finding your own method. This is working really well for me, and it's turning out pretty nice looking. I mean, obviously it's a big putty epoxy, so it's not exactly pretty, but my goal is to get it just nice and as smooth as I can. That way, when I put the pond shield on top, it'll help everything blend really well. All right, we are completely done with the sealing. I did want to show you, obviously you want to seal that drain. I use probably too much, but I wanted to make sure that thing was not going to leak. I took the plug out, I filled the plug hole, the threaded hole with JB Water Weld, put the plug back in, and then I completely sealed around the edges too. So we are done, top's done, all the cracks are done. You don't have to do this edge. This is not a seam. There's no gap there. That's just a bent piece of metal, so you don't have to do that edge. Bottoms, corners, everything's ready. So we're gonna give it some cure time now, and then we're gonna come back over it and just give it a light sand just to make sure it's roughed up and maybe improve the aesthetics of it a little bit. And then we'll be ready for the pond shield. All right, so in preparation of the pond shield, number one, you need to figure out where you want your pond shield edge to stop. I've seen people stop inside and have a white rim. I'm gonna go all the way up top with the blue. So we're gonna take the lid off. Pretty easy to do on this Frigidaire. Pop the little plastic piece off, and you got 4 screws here to take off. We're gonna get the lid out of the way just to make it easier to work on when we're doing the pond shield. All right, as you can see, we have started the pond shield. Had a little mistake this morning, but we're back on track. So I'm mixing smaller pieces. I'm not sure how much to mix at one time. Make sure you got a good quality microfiber roller. I did thin it with alcohol. That's optional. I think the first time I thinned it with just a little bit. The second time I put a little more in, and it seems to be rolling much nicer than it was the first time. So just take your time. We're going to do 4 coats. So as you're applying the first coat, it looks really thin, and it is, because you're not trying to get a big buildup in one shot. We're going to put 4 layers on, so we'll get plenty of coverage. And you can see I took a brush and went around the edge first. Not sure why, I just felt like maybe getting the cracks in the corners first with a brush. And now I'm just going to keep rolling on. And I've got 2 dehumidifiers in here. I put them on last night. I've been running about 35 to 45% humidity, so we should be okay. I know this stuff is very sensitive to humidity, so you really need to get it under 50% humidity from what I've read and seen with other people having issues. If you steal your wife's Tupperware, just don't let her know. So the bottom was easy. I actually just kind of poured some on the bottom and then rolled it. But on the sides, I wanted a paint tray or something. I didn't have any, so Tupperware has a lot of uses. And per the instructions, always follow the instructions, obviously, but it says for your application process, each layer or each coat needs to be done no less than an hour, no more than 10 hours in between. Do the tack test, put your finger on it. If it's tacky but it doesn't come off on your finger, you're good to go for another coat. But if you wait more than 10 hours, then you're going to have to wait for it to completely cure and then rough sand it. So try to plan a day where you can get all your coats done, paying attention to the tack, because I did not want to have to go through and sand this thing down just to be able to get another layer on it. So we pretty much committed today to getting this done. As you can see, I'm actually indoors. Thank you to my wife for letting me take over her office for the day. I'm in the South, and humidity here is always high. So there was no chance I could do anything in the garage to get the humidity down. So moved it inside yesterday. It's been acclimated for about more than 24 hours. We've had the dehumidifiers running, so was not going to take any chance with having high humidity ruin this part. So if you can move it inside, do it. There's a little bit of a smell, but it's not bad at all. I was worried about bringing it in and having to stink up the whole place, but it's not bad at all. I mean, I'm in here with the doors closed. I don't have a respirator on. You probably should. Don't do what I say, but I've never been a big fan of wearing respirators unless I really need to, and this is not bad at all. So, but again, be safe. You do you. Okay, it's been, I don't know, maybe hour and a half, maybe close to 2 hours, and we are ready for the next coat. And you can tell by, it's still tacky, but it's not coming off of my fingers. So we're gonna get it mixed up and get another coat on. All right, now for anybody like me who doesn't have a lot of patience, this is a very tedious process, but just understand it's about building up layers. Like this second coat here, I'm putting it on a good, not a super thick layer, but even then, it still has a little blotchy color to it. So it's not super solid, but it's the second coat. Just understand the more coats you put on, it's going to get solid eventually. So just follow the process. Don't get super heavy just because you're anxious to see it one solid color. Just take your time and do the coats. All right, so that's second coat applied. You can see, I mean, a lot of improvement. It's definitely getting darker and more solid color, but you can still see some white through there. So it's okay. I think the third coat is going to be a big, big change. Just what I've seen from the first to the second. All right, we just got the third layer on, and like I was hoping and expecting, that was a big change. I mean, it's pretty much solid color now. We're going to actually do the fourth coat tonight. Some of the runs that I had over here, as I started applying more and more coats, those runs kind of disappeared. So I think one more coat and we'll be good. Piece of advice, when it says wear gloves, wear gloves. This is after, it's not bad now, but this is after cleaning with isopropyl alcohol, denatured alcohol, acetone, and lacquer thinner. And the paint, that blue just does not come off. So wear some gloves, lesson learned. Anyway, I think we got one more coat tonight. We're going to be good, and then we'll let it sit here in the room. We're currently running 39 degrees humidity, or not degrees, 39% humidity. So we're in good shape. One more coat to go. Get ready for the final coat. So a little bit on how I've been mixing them. Obviously get a nice measuring cup, 2 parts to 1. I think it's 2 parts A to 1 part B. Put your part B in here first if you're going to thin it with alcohol. I've actually been doing 4 ounces of B and then a little bit of alcohol, mix that up, and then 2 ounces of, or 2 parts of A. So bring it up to 12, just a little over 12 because of the alcohol. And it says mix it, I think, about 3 minutes. Everything I've read and what I've seen best so far, I mix it for about 5. No reason not to. Just over mix it. Don't mix it real hard and real fast. You get bubbles. Just take a nice slow stir for 5 minutes, and you'll get a nice good consistency, kind of similar to a paint, kind of a thick paint. And we are ready to apply. All right, it's been 3 days and it is cured, sealed. I think it looks great. Really came out nice. Paying attention to the humidity, I think, was the key. You got to get it in somewhere. If you're in a dry state, Arizona, out west, no problem. If you're in the south, or if you're in somewhere that has a lot of humidity, try to get it inside, get yourself a humidifier or two, get that humidity down under 50% for sure. Like I said, I maintained in the upper 30s most of the time. And now we're getting ready to cut the access holes. So I've got jets that I'm going to install, but I can't just start cutting in here. You got cooling lines. I don't know exactly how many are in the back, but I'm assuming they're wrapped probably all the way around. I'm going to take that assumption and be careful. If it's not, then I'm being oversafe is fine. So what I'm going to do is take my suction, my inlet is going to be here. So the pump will pump out here, go through the filtration system, and then over here is going to be my jet going back in. And what I've selected for my jets is these the little hull bungs right here, just like for a boat. These are 1/2 inch, so I'll be able to put a tube on here, clamp it good. So these will mount from the inside sticking out. We'll have one down here, like I said, as the suction side, and then one up here as the pressure side going back into the tank. So we're going to be really careful. We're not going to cut deep, just barely deep enough to cut the outside of the metal. That'll give me an idea I can get in there, get some of the insulation out of the way, make sure there's no lines before I drill the hole to get these mounted from the other side. So let's cautiously and carefully get started. All right, safety first. Always make sure you're wearing eyeglasses when you're cutting metal. Just going to use a DeWalt with a cutoff wheel on it. And my plan is we're going to cut these squares out, then drill the hole, get the bungs mounted from the other side. And then I'm going to cut, for aesthetics, make it look nice, I'm going to cut a piece of, just go to the local hardware store, get a little piece of sheet metal. We'll cut it to patch over that. And then I've actually got some grommets, so I'll cut a hole in that patch piece for a grommet, and then all you'll have is a nice clean cut with the grommet in it and have the tube coming out of there, so it should look nice. So get cutting. All right, so like I said, this is not so much an instructional video as it is a learning video on the things that I've designed that I think the way I want to be. And there's a lot of folks out there, I know what they're going to say right now. I told you so. So I studied the Frigidaire. This is a 14.8, whatever, 15 cubic foot freezer. I looked at diagrams, schematics, everything I could to try to figure out where the lines are. And I cut a line. But got a guy coming tomorrow. I did find somebody who's really good at aluminum welding, brazing, whatever you want to call it. So he's coming out tomorrow to fix it. Right here. So what I had seen, so I also cut a pretty good size hole because I wanted to have visibility, because I knew about the cooling lines up against the inside of the tank. The heat lines on the outside, that's how it dissipates the heat out of it. I was not aware that they were spaced so close together. So cutting in, boom, I hit that one. I got the bungs all cutting in now, just temporarily placed. I'm going to take him out, obviously, when he's finishing it tomorrow. So yeah, obviously I'm like, well, I can go get a new freezer. But I already did all the water weld. I already did 4 coats of epoxy. It turned out really well. So when I add up the cost of the freezer, the JB water weld, the pond shield, that alone adds up to more than getting it repaired. And then when you add in my time of a couple weeks worth of the patching, the sealing, the epoxying, yeah, it sucks. But if you got a Frigidaire, be careful, because these are spaced. The outside about, I'm going to measure them. I'll get you guys a good solid measurement tomorrow when he's here. But I think they're about 3 inches. The ones inside, super safe, and that's what I was planning on. I was cutting real thin just to get through the outer shell so then I could dig it out and find the lines. Well, these lines here are set right against the inside. So there's no gap between the outer steel and those lines. So lesson learned. Plus, if I bought a new one, I'd be guessing, I could measure this and figure out, where those return lines are. And then if it's the exact same model, hoping from the manufacturer that everything's placed exactly right. So I'd still be risking cutting another one. So I talked to him, I sent him some pictures. He said, yeah, man, that's not easy work, but he's 100% sure that he can fix it, and fix it in a quality way that it's going to last a long time. So we'll see tomorrow. Update coming soon. All right, now one other thing you want to think about, I'm putting my ice bath in my garage. A lot of garage floors have slope to them. That way if water gets inside the garage, it doesn't flood the house, it slopes out. Where I'm going to be is right here where my sauna, and I've currently got a fridge right there, and there's a downward slope a little bit. And obviously I don't want my ice bath tilted. It's going to look weird. The water is going to slope to the back of it. So I got a measurement of the taper here. And so when I build my base, my structural base is going to help support underneath anyway. I'm just going to slope that a little bit, and that way I'll get a nice even layout for the base of my ice bath. And I got this one cut, so laid on top of this one here. It's about 1 1/8 inch slope in 55.5 inches. So I've got the first one cut, and you can see how that taper goes from flat all the way down to about 1 inch drop. So I've got the first one cut. I'm gonna use that as a template to cut my second one now. Unfortunately, all this really is now is time kill until the guy comes out to fix the freezer, hopefully. So it needs to be done, so I'm just making the best of my time. So we got, like I said, the first one cut. We're just gonna use that as a template for the second one. I'm doing this with just a hand circular saw. You could set up a jig on a table saw if you want, but I've only got 2 cuts, so I figured, no use going through setting up a jig. I'm just going to do it here. All right, let's see how it lays up with the square and see if it's nice and level. All right, so this is the one we just cut. Thinner end here, thicker end there because the slope's going down. And our bubble level is just about perfect, so I'm going to call that good. We'll get to building the rest of the frame out now. So thinking about the base here, this Frigidaire has a really hard bottom. It's just probably some type of foam underneath it. So I don't have a lot of room to really put anything up there, sunk in that's going to help support that. So what I think I'm going to do is when I'm building out this frame, so I'll have the outside edge of the frame all the way around and the cross supports here, I think I'm going to let stick up just a little bit. That way, when I put it underneath here, those cross supports right here, starting probably about here, stretched across, are going to be a little taller than the frame itself. And with the weight, I think once we get, what's that? I don't know, 90, 100 gallons, 8 pounds a gallon. That's a lot of weight, 720, 750 pounds in here. I think that weight will push this down enough that it'll sink that wood into here as the support. So that's the approach we're going to take. This is pretty solid, but you can tell there's some foam, you can see these dents in here. So that's the approach we're going to take. Let's see how it turns out. All right, I like to countersink all my screws. Not important. It's just, to me, I like a little cleaner look, so I like all my screw heads to be countersunk. So one cut I'll have to do now, since these are tapered down and thinner, I'll take the measurement of the thickness of here, rip this piece down so that's the same height. Okay, and in planning my supports, I obviously don't need one down here. This is just the keeper bracket for the compressor and stuff inside. So on my first support to probably hit right about here, I think if I've got 1, 2, 3, and then I'll have the outside edge here. So really 1, 2, 3 brackets. And then with that taper, we'll have to trim probably these two. This one will probably be all right, but all right, let's get these cut. Okay, frame is done for now. So you can see we got a little bit of stick up here, which I think is going to be good. I think that'll sit right inside and push up into the bottom, give it a little more support. So that's it. Aesthetically, it looks kind of crappy, but we're going to paint it and make it look all good before we get the ice bath on top of it. So, all right, so back on the pump and filter system, changing it up a little bit because I didn't think the pickup side of the pump was going to be too high. So I'm going to actually just mount the pump later on. What I'm going to focus on now is getting my barb inside and my output set up and done. Then once I get this positioned and mounted the way I want it, I'll come back and mount the pump, doing everything with flex tube. So it should be easy enough to position the pump where I want it and just tie it in later. All right, so on the output side, we'll have, obviously the pump will come in, it'll move through here, split, come through the venturi, get the ozone, come through the filter, and on the way out, we need to get to a barb style. These are awesome little barbs, really tight fit in the 1/2-inch reinforced hose that I'm going to be using. So all we got to do is get from this T here to a barb. So we're going to just cut a little piece there, and then we'll go slip by thread so we can get that in, piece that in, and then the tube will come off here and go to the bung on the output side to fill it back up. And anytime you're doing PVC, make sure you prime it. And then after you get your glue on, when you slip that fitting together, if you can see what I do, just turn it about a 1/4 turn all the way in. That just makes sure the glue gets spread. Hold it a good 10-15 seconds, and you're good to go. Fit. All right. So we're just going to take the threaded side of the barb, roll some tape up on it, thread that in. Now obviously this glue is still wet, so I'm not going to crank on that really hard right now. Once that glue has time to set, I'll get a pair of channel locks, hold this, and then thread that in tighter. All right, so a couple little adjustments we just ended up making. So I've got this will be my input side, and that'll be my output side up there. So I just notched in some holes because, like I said, I want my pump mounted down below the line of that intake. So we'll have the pump down here, and that'll come out with that flex hose. We're just going to use reinforced flex tubing here. It'll come out into there, so that'll be a suction up. Then we'll hard line this, and then we'll come out of that barb fitting into the boat bung fitting that'll be in there. All right, so moment of truth. We are just got the hose in it. We'll do a leak check today. Make sure neither one of those bungs are leaking. Make sure and then once it gets above that lower bung, we'll have water going out into the pump. So as soon as we get high enough, we're going to test the circulation system too, make sure we don't have any leaks, and see if we got anything to fix today. All right, so it's up above the lower bung, and I'm impatient, so let's kick it on. Now we got water flow. I don't see any leaks. Now I pre-filled that water container, or the filter housing, just so I didn't have to wait for it to fill up with the pump. I don't see any leaks yet. Everything looks good. That's exciting to first turn it on and actually see it doing something finally. So we're going to let it keep filling up and keep an eye on it. All right, water is about, maybe 2/3 full, just above the outlet bung. So I want to get in it and test the height. I don't want to overfill it right off the get-go and have to drain anything out. So first time getting in. Oh, I think that's right about perfect. First time sitting in the tub with water, and this is going to be absolutely perfect. 14.8, 15 cubic foot. I'm 6'2", about 190 pounds. Perfect size. All right, we've been ice bathing for a few days. I want to go through the drain process just to make sure how I rig this up is actually going to work. So it should be as simple as shutting the valve going to the filter, opening the valve going to my hose. I just have that ran outside for now. You can see water is already starting to come out. We're going to kick the pump on manually. Right now I've got it on timer and it's not running now, so kick it on, pumps on, and there we go. It's pumping water really well. All right, second weekend. So we finished it last weekend, well, what I thought was finished, and operated pretty well, but I realized I wasn't getting enough flow into the tank, and it wasn't actually enough suction going through the venturi to pull any ozone down. So I did a little research and I realized I undersized my pump. So I had a 500 gallon per hour danner, and it wasn't enough. Well, the problem with that, I've got the 1200 now that I'm going to put on today, but that changes me from 1/2 inch PVC to 3/4. Just an amateur mistake. I didn't do enough research and really understand the pump. I figured with the gallons I have, 500 gallon per hour, if it's running 24/7, that's going to be enough. Well, it's not. So that's okay. We did learn a couple things on the design of the 1/2 inch here that we're going to tweak a little bit with the new build. It'll be very, very similar. I think everything worked out really good. More of just a layout change. And So I've got all my pieces cut, laid everything out. Make sure you primer all your PVC. I mean, it only takes a few seconds. So I got everything laid out, everything's primered. We're going to start assembling. And I am going with a little bit different fittings for the barb style. The ones I had on here were great, but once I went up to 3/4 inch, it gave me a few different options, and I think I'm going to like this style a little better. So let's get to assembling the 3/4 inch pump filtration system. All right, so with this redesign or rebuild into 3/4, I had to go with 3/4 inch through hole fittings, the ones I had in a 1/2 inch. So took the old ones out, got the 1/2 inch ones out, as you can see. That's my outlet, that's my inlet. So I'm getting ready to put the new bungs in, and I'm going to use the 3M marine adhesive sealant. And the reason I'm using this is I've used this before on my boat. I had to replace a couple of the through hole fittings. I use this stuff and it's great. Completely waterproof, obviously. It's a marine, so it'll have a little bit of pliability to it. And these walls are kind of thin, so if you've got your through hole locked in, even though it's locked in tight, if that hose is wiggling a little bit, it'll flex the side of the freezer a little bit. So when I did it before, I just used JB Water Weld, and I think that's probably fine. But after I put it in there, I thought about how hard that sets. I'd like to have something that'll have a little bit of flex to it. So we're going to go with the 3M 5200 marine sealant. So let's get these installed. And I'm going to keep the rubber washer on, and I'm going to put the sealant behind it. There'll be plenty of sealant oozing out. I just like having that rubber there for a little more flex and added seal. And this stuff is white, so we're just going to spread a good layer all the way around here. A bit on there now, ready to go in. All right, put our nut on the back side. All right, show you what it looks like on the back side. It's a little tight to get that nut good and tight. Just take your time, and it doesn't have to be, 120 pounds of torque on it. Just get it good and tight where it's secure and squeezes out that silicone, and you'll be fine. All right, so we're filling it up after putting the 1200 gallon per hour pump on it and re-plumbing with 3/4 pipe. And man, there is a lot more flow coming out now. And I did check my venturi. I'm getting good suction, so I'm getting ozone injected as well. So I think we're gonna be in good shape, but initial fill up, we'll check in a couple hours, make sure we don't have any leaks from all the new connections, and hopefully we'll be good to go. I'm excited. Like I said, there is a lot more flow coming out of that, so that's gonna definitely help keep it cleaner and keep the water circulating better. All right, we're about to get in. Wanted to show you quick before we turn the lights back on. I did find those puck lights. I'll show you where to get those. Comes with a little remote. All I did was glue a small magnet to the back, and then you can stick it right on the outside and then hit it on, and we'll shut everything off just to make sure. And that's the nice ambiance. Dark lights, a little bit of light up inside, and those are bubbles floating around. So about to get in. There is nothing better after a nice long day than being able to get in this. And I've been doing mornings more than evenings, but I've heard quite a few people say in the evenings they get better sleep, so we're going to test that theory out. I love it in the morning. I usually get up about 4:30, 4:45, have a cup of coffee, jump in, and just gets all your adrenaline going, get your brain woke up. It's just a great way to start the day. So I hope you guys found this this video a little bit enjoyable maybe, and was able to learn something from it. Like I said, there's a lot more that I'm going to do to it, so I hope you like and subscribe. And when we do the lives, if you got questions, I'll be honest. I mean, I made some pretty substantial mistakes, and but hey, I learned from them, and I'm really happy with the results. And probably going to do another one at some point, but it was a lot of fun. So thank you guys for watching this, and if you got any questions, like I said, drop them in the comments. We'll get to them. We may save some for the live, but regardless, thanks for watching. Hope you all found this helpful.